Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. I truly do hope you're keeping well. Let's get right into the subject of the day, that is narcissistic parents. Ideally, every parent is expected to go out of their way to ensure they do right by their children. After all, when we get children, we always say we've gotten a blessing, we've gotten a bundle of joy. So every parent is expected. What is normal is that a parent should go out of their way to make life great for their children. But this is not always the case when a parent has NPD. NPD is short form for narcissistic personality disorder. It is a very different ball game when you get to be raised by one. You grow up thinking something is wrong with you, or you ain't good enough, or life is a competition and you have to keep proving your worth. It is a very sad situation, and children brought up by narcissistic parents end up either becoming narcissists themselves, or they become very empathetic individuals. Narcissists, the ones who turn out as narcissists, the children who say, I am growing up to be just like daddy. I'm growing up to be just like mommy. The way I watched them behave is just the same way I'm going to treat people. The ones who become empaths are the ones who look at their parents and realize there's something wrong, and they say, I am going to be intentional about how I'm going to relate with people. I'm not going to turn out like mommy or daddy, did. I'm not going to be like them. I'm going to be a better person. So children brought up in such environments, they never really get to appreciate the meaning of family. It is in that family, after all, where they got hurt the most. They become damaged individuals, and it takes the hand of God to repair such wounded mindsets. And of course, counseling helps, done by professionals. So it is important to check into a counseling center if you have gone through such kind of abuse from parents. A narcissistic parent is usually possessive in a chronic way. They are manipulative and often engages in unfair, toxic competition with their own offspring. You know the way you are normal. You go to a parent and you tell them, "Hey, I want to do this." You will see your parents trying to challenge you also in the same field. They want unfair competition with you. This kind of parent perceives independence of their own child as a threat, regardless of whether this offspring is an adult or not. A narcissistic parent will never give their offspring decent compliments. For example, instead of telling their daughters, "My daughter, you look so pretty," a narcissistic parent will often channel this compliment as, "My daughter, you look just as pretty as your mother." A father, instead of complimenting his son on graduation day, as just telling them, "You've done great," they'll tell them, "When I was in campus, I did just as good." This takes off the attention and compliment from the child. It makes it look like the child has only achieved whatever you're complimenting them for, not out of their effort or industry, but because he or she is born of you, the God. You know that it is very wrong. Such a parent will drive their child into careers that serve their image without putting into consideration what the child really wants to pursue. You've heard of kids who have graduated top of their classes and taken degree certificates to their parents, then fled away to follow their passion. Such children do not do that because they want to be rude. These children, they have never really been able to express themselves, and this is the time that they see it fit to go away and start a new life afresh after delivering the degree that the parent wanted, not what the child wanted to pursue in the first place. So another trait of a narcissistic parent, this one is really an interesting one. If a child shows potential for success, that for an NPD parent becomes an issue, especially if the child seems to be surpassing the levels the parent reached in terms of development. An narcissistic parent, unlike other parents who would be all joyful and supportive, this one becomes very intentional about bringing their child down. They start to throw demoralizing words at their children. They will even work with flying monkeys in the background to bring you down, because how could you stretch your wings so far? You are my child. You do as I say. It's always about them anyway. You need to be very, very careful, especially when you enter into adult life and you know that your parent has this NPD problem. You need to be very, very careful. A narcissistic parent will guilt trip their children and manipulate them to be responsible for their care, financial and emotional support, never mind whether the child is struggling or not. They will treat their children as objects of supply. Let's be honest, there is a reasonable level of support that a child can give a parent. Sometimes even the children are struggling themselves in the city. You shouldn't be killing yourself to do this if you're not in a position to. Life is hard for everybody. You only stretch where you can, and you shouldn't be made to feel like it's your responsibility. The other trait is that you'll observe a narcissistic parent lacks empathy towards their children. They intentionally refuse to be mindful of the feels of their children. What the child thinks, what the child feels, what the child is insecure about, what the child loves, what the child likes, it is of no consequence to the parent. Only what the parent thinks, and wants matters. And this is a very sad situation. A narcissistic parent badmouths their own children and their co-parents. You will hear them telling their kids, your father is useless. You will hear the father now telling their children, your mother is very useless. It is only me who does ABCD. While the children can actually watch and see their father is also playing parts. The child can also see that the mother is also working hard to do ABCD. But this parent will set the children against the other parents intentionally. To them, this is about looking better than everyone else. Life to them is a competition, and they must win all the time, regardless of who else is playing. Now, the moment you critique this kind of parent, hell breaks loose. You are threatened with curses, excommunication. You are, at this point, they even quote a good Bible for you where it favors them only, without quoting where God places responsibility directly to the parents, regarding their children. You may get prolonged silent treatment to cow you and manipulate you to toe the line. If you are observant, you will notice that a narcissistic parent often will tell on themselves. They contradict their words and actions, and if caught, they will tell you very casually, do as I say, not as I do. The most horrible characteristic about narcissistic parents, and this one is really sad, is that they set their children against each other. I think you know several families where children do not see eye to eye, but they all seem to agree with one parent. Underline the word one parent. They set you against each other. They also set you against the other co-parent, so that attention is solely now drawn to them and them alone. Everything is about them. They will have a favorite child, often called the golden child, always good child. This they will pick from their own gender, and from the opposite gender, and they will also have a scapegoat child. This they will pick from their own gender. We will discuss these dynamics later about how that happens. And this one will always, the scapegoat will always be wrong. The golden child will always be right. They'll never say anything wrong about, even correcting the golden child. They will never correct. But the scapegoat, however good that child is, the parent will never acknowledge. They will use this golden child as a tool to triangulate, the other child, and these children are born of the same parents. It is very strange. And in my upcoming videos, I will discuss how this matrix plays out, and how families, can cope with such things, and how this also destroys families, the family goodwill and cohesion. It is in the meantime, let's just think about the parable of the sower and how things stand out. By the Bible has everything. You don't need to go far to see what really happens to these two children. These two children. People who've also had this kind of dynamics in their families, and how things turn out in that family. It is a very toxic behavior by the narcissistic parent who chooses to go this direction. As I conclude, it is good to note that for every narcissistic person, it is all about power and control. It is all about image, ego boosting, and flattery, and how they look to the world. It is never about who they are in private. You will realize that a narcissist is usually a very different person in public from the person that they are in private. A narcissist will brag about big contacts in the big high places, trophy spouses, favorite big, club memberships, trophy nonsense everywhere, trophy nonsense everything. Instead of inspiring their children to do good, these people dictate to them to do best, and make daddy and mommy proud. It is never about the child. It is never about do your best. Child, go do your best. So this can help you in this and this way in future. It is about do this to make mommy or daddy proud. That false inflated self-image and objectifying of children, teaching them to adopt superiority complex against their peers, that we are better than them. It is what is building dysfunctional families in the current day. And if you're a parent who has been behaving like this, kindly allow yourself to heal your inner wounds. Heal your wounds and stop bleeding on your children. The fact that God placed these children under your care, it doesn't mean that you have any right to abuse them. Allow yourself to go through psychosocial counseling for the sake of your family. Otherwise, a toxic wound cannot be healed by covering it up, but by seeking help. You can't keep on behaving like an ostrich, burying your head under the sand. You have to acknowledge that you have a problem, and this problem is going to affect your family. Now, if you're going through this, the best you can do is chart your own independent path. Love your parents from a distance, in full realization that NPD is a personality disorder. It can only be dealt with by self and by a psychosocial counselor. You cannot plead NPD in court, meaning this is not a mental problem. This is a personality issue. And people who seek help can heal from it and live decent lives like every other normal person. So it is up to you to choose the path that you want. If you are a parent, knowing that everything you do has a consequence. These are human beings you're dealing with, and everyone has limits. And I will say for the children who have gone through this kind of abuse, I just pray that you get to flee from such kind of abuse, because it is very detrimental to your growth. That's all for now. I thank you so much for staying with me. Have a good day. I hope to be discussing more on this topic in my next videos. Thank you so much. Please subscribe. Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a while. I truly do hope you're keeping well. Let's get right into the subject of the day, that is narcissistic parents. Ideally, every parent is expected to go out of their way to ensure they do right by their children. After all, when we get children, we always say we've gotten a blessing, we've gotten a bundle of